Hey, this is Power Card, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
It's pretty incredible. In fact, it's marvelous. Thank you, guys.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. Full court press for you here on a Friday, recording this on a Thursday morning. Why are we recording this on a Thursday morning, Kyle?
We landed yet again the big fish, the one that we always are interested in speaking to. We're never going to have enough time to get all of our questions in, but we got another 15 minutes with none other than Ed Reed.
Yeah, that's yeah. The Reed. At what point do we just start saying friend of the podcast, Ed Reed?
I think now we've got him on twice. Like, I've interviewed a few players. I haven't landed them twice, especially as you know, start of the season, end of the season, get one full interview, get another. I know full is technical. We've only had 40 minutes with him total, but nonetheless, friend of the pod, Ed Ballhawk Reed.
Voss, your favorite player of all time. Spenny is here too with us as well. We all got to hop on this time and each get two questions of our own in, so it was pretty fun. Voss, your reaction to that, because I know that was probably a bucket lister for you.
Oh, absolutely, and definitely my favorite of all time. Also sponsored by Crown Royal, one of my other favorites of all time. Ed is he's awesome. He was really down to earth, gave us some good intel, and it was a pleasure.
Spenny, you had fun, I'm guessing.
Yeah, my questions kind of sucked, but I had time.
It's such a weird balance you have to strike, because you don't want him to we know we only have 15 minutes going into these things. It's like a pull back the curtain. It's a little press junket thing that their PR sets up. They reach out to us and they're like, you got 15 minutes, do what you need to do. So you don't want to have him going over in depth so he doesn't run too long, but you also want to ask good stuff. But I think we got some good ones in there. I think we maybe potentially are breaking a little bit of news with one of Kyle's questions. I think I threw him for a loop with my second question, which wound up being the last one, which is pretty fun that you'll want to stay tuned in for. But yeah, just a really good time all around.
Honestly, a great interview. Like I said, you just can't get enough time with these guys, these legends, Ed Reed, I assume Ray, Ogden, any of the big guys, big names. You just can't get enough time with them because the football wisdom that they've forgotten is more than I think I'll ever learn at this point. They're brilliant, and Ed's so good. Ed's such a great interviewer. He has no ego to him. He just responded to us. He loves talking football. It's clear that he still has such a love for the game, and overall it was just an absolute blast.
Yeah, as he noted after the interview there, we were all football. I stayed into the room for a second there, and he kind of threw that out there, which is pretty funny. But before we get into that, did want to touch a little bit on heading into this weekend. We obviously have the big game coming up on Sunday, so wanted to talk a little bit of big game ahead of it, just in lieu of having an episode out, because there's really not a ton of Ravens news. But we did chat a little bit of big game with Ed in his interview, because it was Crown Royal sponsoring it, and they're also going to be partnered with the big game a little bit, I think. So, Voss, what are your thoughts heading into this matchup? Chiefs-Bucks, big game 55.
I'm really looking forward to it. Should be a good matchup, tight game. Was it a 3.5 point line? So it's not going to, at least the odds makers don't expect a blowout. Like you guys were saying on your with Sarah, it's goat against baby goat. So I just want to see how it plays out. The teams are a little bit different. Does Tampa Bay's a little bit of strength in the trenches, is that going to be able to counteract the explosiveness of KC, or KC's playmaker is going to step up and show that's really the winning formula?
Yeah, the front seven of Tampa Bay really is pretty vicious. They showed up big time against Aaron Rodgers. It's kind of a different beast going up against a guy like Mahomes, who I think is maybe even a juiced up version of Rodgers at this point, which is pretty crazy. Spenny, you're the guy who's probably watched the most film between these two teams. What do you see heading into this big game?
The big game. The Bucs hit. The Bucs really hit. They come downhill with ferocity. I feel like they're going to be able to jar a ball loose, something of the sort. And they're, guys from PFF are floating around the idea of like, oh, you want the Chiefs to throw the ball deep to Tyreek Hill. It's less efficient. Well, the Bucs kind of did that last time they played in week 6, week 7, whatever it was. And Tyreek Hill ends up having 215 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. So I'm not entirely sure where that idea comes from, but the Bucs defense really does have playmakers all over. The fact that they have so many weapons offensively, I think that their offensive line is incredible. I think the two of the most underrated groups in football are the Bucs offensive line and the Chiefs secondary.
Yeah.
And I think that Brady is going to be able to make enough throws in this game. My gut tells me, like my betting fandom tells me that the Chiefs are going to walk away victorious in this one, but my brain, my logic, what I've seen tells me that Bucs defense is going to be able to make a couple plays with Levante David, and especially if Antoine Winfield's able to be fully healthy. And I think they're going to be able to funnel some things, create some turnovers, and take advantage of a weak Chiefs offensive line that's missing, its top 2 guys. So I think it's going to be one of those fourth quarter memorable Super Bowls for sure. I don't think a blowout is going to happen. Been wrong before, but it just feels like there's going to be a momentous passing of the torch or I've still got it moment as the outcome of this game. I'm gonna go with the Bucs in the end. I think I'm gonna take them money line, and I also am definitely taking a Mike Evans touchdown as a prop bet as well.
You know what the move is? You do a 14 teaser, Bucs, Chiefs over and under, and then you have a 13-point window either way to try to hit all 3.
Wow, that is a definite move.
Boss, you need to unbutton that shirt one more if you're going to come at us with that kind of.
Yeah, this is the Greektown gambling corner for the big game, brought to you by Crown Royal. Kyle, you're probably the biggest Big J journalist of this group here. We know you love a good storyline. You root for the storyline, some might say. What storylines do you have circled kind of heading into this one? Because it kind of feels like a week with not a ton of buzz heading into it. Maybe it's COVID. Maybe it's the fact that there's not going to be a ton of fans. But I've even seen some chatter on Twitter that people really aren't jacked up for this one. I'm kind of in the middle. What storylines are you tracking heading into this?
The obvious one is the Brady versus Mahomes, and I loved the way that Spencer put that was the I still got it versus the passing of the torch. Which one's going to come out on top at the end? That remains to be seen. I did like Sarah's goat versus baby goat. That was pretty hilarious the way she delivered that one. But the storylines I'm tracking is can a team repeat for the first time in 2 decades, I believe, since it was the Pats last time, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Eagles and the Panthers.
Yep, and so this is an opportunity. The Seahawks had an opportunity to do so a while back. They couldn't do it. It was also against a Tom Brady-led team. So it's time to see if they're capable of doing literally what the Patriots did, back in the day. My big one is that whole stupid just let him throw it to Tyreek. It's not as efficient. It's absolutely wild to consider because we've seen teams do the whole, just let them throw it to the one guy. Like we can stop 11 of them if they just got to be lucky enough to connect. They're not lucky enough to connect. Patrick Mahomes isn't fortunate enough to connect with Tyreek Hill. That's his best target. Travis Kelce's incredible. He's probably one of the best tight ends in the game of all time already. Like his production is bewildering, but if Tyreek Hill is a main threat and target anytime he's on the field, it's rather frustrating, especially seeing the Ravens go up against him so many times and being capable of truly stopping that entire offense. I think this is going to be another offensive shootout kind of deal. This is, I feel like it's going to be a big game, and there's going to be.
Oh, it's going to be a big.
It's going to be a big game.
It might even pop off.
Yeah. One of them, somebody's going to pop off. I kind of am worried that it is going to be the blowout. I'm worried that this is going to be a blowout, and it's really going to suck for the whole the narratives that are going to be pushed out of it are going to be exhausted. Like if the Bucs just steamroll the Chiefs, everybody's be like, well, there's a blueprint out on the Chiefs now. Everybody's going to be able to stop the Chiefs. You just have to do what they did. And that's definitely not going to be true. We're going to find that out early into the next season. And as far as like if the Bucs lose, even in a close one, Brady's going to throw like 3 touchdowns, 280 plus yards, doesn't probably give up a turnover. And they still be like, man, Brady just couldn't do it. Like, I'm not looking forward to these narratives. I think a part of the reason, going back to your first little statement that like this isn't as hyped up, is there's no real big media week. Everything's via Zoom. There's not a crowd of reporters, funneling into a super crowded building.
Some like mall in Minnesota, they're like waddling over to like Orange Julius and just like having themselves a week. But
yeah,
Barstool was Trojan horsing themselves in.
Yeah, like Portnoy was getting like dragged out.
Yeah, so like none of that stuff's happening, which makes this less anticipated, like less exciting. But the teams are exciting. The Chiefs are an exciting team. Hate them, love them, whatever. Hate them. But they're an exciting team, and so are the Bucs. So is Brady on the Bucs. The storylines. That's another thing. That's the last storyline I'll go to, and then I'll pass this off. I know I talk too much on this damn pod, but the Brady versus Belichick debate. If Brady wins the Super Bowl, and people that love to say that Brady was just a system and a product of the system of Belichick. Like if Brady wins one his first year without Belichick, everybody's going to say that now that Belichick isn't as great of a coach as they really believed. And I saw like Pat McAfee's show was already like putting out like the questionnaires of like, who's more responsible for the Patriots dynasty, Brady or Belichick? Like they both fucking were. Like, stop this whole like hit us versus them thing.
Brady became the system early on. The Pats teams that went on that early run in the early 2000s, there was an entirely different formula there. And then you go into the Randy Moss kind of moves and Gronk and Aaron Hernandez and all these different kinds of things. So I think Brady became the system after all that success after a while. And the other thing that I take away from that is that, like, we talk about GOAT and baby GOAT, and there is a terribly, not that Aaron Rodgers went to 2 straight Super Bowls, but I feel like people have just already kind of anointed Patrick Mahomes as like a 6-time Super Bowl, like a 5-time Super Bowl winner. So personally, the fan in me just kind of wants the Bucs to, I almost said the Patriots, the Bucs to just kind of smack that out of them, because I think Aaron Rodgers, when he got his first one, everybody's like, oh, this guy's going to win 5 Super Bowls. And here we are, over a decade later, and he's got 1 and hasn't been back. So I think it's interesting to see how this one plays out.
So with that, let's get our big game predictions in. Voss, we'll start with you. I know you're a big Brady is the system guy and is the absolute GOAT, so it's probably not going to change much in your mind. But what are you thinking for?
It's been impressive that Brady's been able to change systems from that Kendrick Perkins, I think they call it, Spencer, the system he was running in New England, to now this more like an Air Coryell with Arians. It's been impressive. I don't think he's head and shoulders above everyone else just because he has more rings. But it's been great. I'm still picking KC. I'm rooting for KC. I have an uncle that lives out in KC and cousins that root for that team. And they're good people, regardless of what some people see on social media. I think their weapons with Andy Reid is going to be too much. Obviously, the banged-up offensive line gives me pause, gives me concern. But let's not forget Brady threw 3 picks in the championship game, so he's not playing at a super elite level. Mahomes, I don't think, has ever been blown out, and he's only lost, I think, 8 games throughout his entire career, and only 2 of those games the oppositions failed to score 35 points. So they're going to have to put up points in bunches. Tampa, they're going to pull it out. They have the players. AB, Gronk, Evans, Godwin. That's a great system with a great line. But I think Kansas City, they just score too fast. If they leave any time on the clock at all, Pat Mahomes is going to be able to pull it off and punch it in at the end.
Yeah, your anecdote about relatives there in Kansas City was pretty good. I actually have a girlfriend, but she goes to a different school. You guys wouldn't know her. Kyle, what do you got for your big game predictions here?
I hate this big game. I'm mad that we have to do KC versus Tampa Bay. I wanted Bills Packers. I'm still butthurt about that. We're near the big game, and I'm already butthurt about it. Anyways, I think my prediction is Chiefs. I believe that they're going to win it between their weapons. And like Voss said, anytime you leave any time on the clock, that offense is just capable of getting downfield, be it Hill, Kelsey, what their litany of weapons. It's just overwhelming. And Butker is, one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history. So putting the game on his shoulders isn't the worst idea if it truly has to come down to a 3-point game, 2-point game, whatever, so have you. So overall, I'm predicting KC. I guess I'm rooting for the Bucs just because I don't want to deal with Chiefs fans for yet another year, but I also don't want to deal with a bunch of New England fans either. This is exhausting. Not thrilled about either option.
Yeah, it's great seeing all the New England fans come out of the woodwork and already given up on their team, and they're big Tampa Bay fans now. It's just thrilling to see. Spenny, your big game 55 prediction for this Sunday.
I have, I talked about my mind, talked about my gut.
My mind.
I'm having a vision in this one of just seeing Tom Brady with no soul left. Like, it's completely vacant and gone after the Chiefs narrowly win. And then the Mahomes, like, I always like to compare, I don't like to compare too much cross-sport platform, but Mahomes, Steph Curry is just one that I can't get out of my mind. I think it's inevitable that the Chiefs are going like a 3-4 year run where they're just the pinnacle, and then kind of have a little bit more of a tough stretch. But it's I could just see Tom Brady, who looks so vacant in his eyes and in his soul this season in particular.
Yeah, plastic surgery will do that to you.
Rhinoplasty, baby. Get that jaw looking tight.
I saw you breaking that down on Twitter the other day. That's some good stuff.
It was unbelievable. His hairline, I just never even noticed. It was so thin and then so majestic. Like, I was like, because his jaw was thick at the bottom and stuff, and now he's got this sharp jawline.
He used to look like Matt Damon, and now he looks like George Clooney. It's like, come on, man. Like, pick one.
It's the avocado ice cream. No, Tom, you got fucking plastic surgery, dude.
So anyway, your prediction for the big game.
The method involves spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on facial reconstruction and hairline transplants and stuff. That's the TB12 method.
It's Botox, the Patriot way.
Drink 6 gallons of water and then get injected with stem cells.
And Russell Wilson and his nano bubbles are just there. It's like, what's going on?
It cures concussions, man. The nano bubbles.
He sucks the soul out of his children's mouths in the most strange and peculiar way possible.
But anyway, your prediction for the big game.
My prediction for the big game, little bubble TM trademark, is that we see Tom Brady fall just short in a 3 or 6 point loss. I'm gonna bet on the Bucs. I like the value, Bucs money line just a little bit, but I think that we ultimately end up seeing Tom Brady giving a sunken, sorrowed handshake to Patrick Mahomes in the passing of the torch, as the smugness and the dynasty that hasn't even actually started yet, but it really feels like we're already in because of the way that the talking heads like to portray it. So I'm going to go Chiefs. I'll give a score. Let's go Chiefs 29. Actually, we'll go Chiefs 33, Bucs 29.
Like it. Yeah, I got the Chiefs in the big game too. I think I probably have a little bit of a similar kind of vision of what you've got going on. Who do we got calling this one? Do we know? Who's on the call?
I don't know what networks
No,
are.
you know what?
I think
Fox.
They traded with CBS or something for some reason.
So we got Joe and Troy.
Jim Nance and Tony Romo of CBS.
I hope not Troy. Troy's he's just the worst of both worlds, in my opinion.
I love me some Troy, to be honest.
I got it right here. It's Super Bowl LV is CBS, Jim Nance, Tony Romo.
Okay, so I've got
they traded it the other way.
Yeah, so I've got similar to you, Spencer. I think it's going to be Bucs are up by maybe 4 or 5 at one point, and then it's kind of late in the mid to late fourth quarter. Tyreek Hill breaks a long one. Oh, Jim, he's going. They're going to tackle him, and then they can't tackle him, and he just an absolutely back-breaking touchdown. And then I visualizing the Buccaneers kind of driving to come back, but ultimately falling short. So I'm going to go Chiefs win the big game 30-25.
We need a high-scoring Super Bowl. We need a real shootout for just entertainment purposes only. Like last year was like a weird game. The year before was a quote unquote defensive bloodbath, aka the Rams just getting utterly dominated up front.
And also choking when the ball was hit in the hands of Robert Woods multiple times and everybody else.
And Jared Goff missing Brandon Cooks 50 yards open by himself, throwing it 5 seconds late.
It didn't even feel like a defensive slugfest. It felt like the Rams just completely went ineptitude. It was aggravating.
It was one throw to Gronk who won the game.
But before that, we had some really good ones. The Philly special, the New England comeback against ATL. So
yeah, it feels like
I
think it feels like from that perspective, we're probably due for a good one. So I think it'll be fun. It's not like when Voss, like when you were a kid, when every Super Bowl was like a blowout. I feel like they're usually pretty close now.
Yeah,
that's not even a joke. Like every single one, like pre 2000 was like, or 1999 probably was like just blowout city. But they're good games now. But I guess that is enough talk on the big game. Appreciate you guys joining me and talking a little bit of big game as we head here now into the weekend. And of course, before we go into this great big game weekend where you're going to enjoy some buffalo chicken dip, maybe a little pizza and some adult sodas for the big game, we do hope you enjoy this interview presented by Crown Royal with our guy, friend of the podcast, Ed Reed. Nice little 13, 15, not exactly sure how it's going to wind up, but a nice little chat with Ed. We each get a couple questions in, and it's pretty fun. And hopefully we can continue to make this happen even more with him now as he gets to know us a little bit. But in the meantime, appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you have yourselves a great weekend. Before you head into it, be sure to follow us on social media. You can follow the show at Podcast Beatdown. Follow the main website account at Be More Beatdown. I am at Jake Luke. That's Louque. Voss, where can they find you and your stuff?
At Vasilis Beatdown, Vasilis Beatdown.
Kyle, what about you?
At BB_Kyle P. Barber, and also live on Twitch streams 4 times a week, twitch.tv/Baltimore Beatdown.
Spenny is at Ravens for Dummies. Also follow us on Instagram at Baltimore_Beatdown. We're going to be posting a ton of clips, including from this coming interview. But without further ado, let's go ahead and throw it over to that. Here is our second chat with friend of the show, Ed Reed.
All righty. So, Ed, first question for you. I've heard rumor that your 108-yard interception was actually schemed a little bit ahead of time. And according to the rumor, after Cobb was subbed in at quarterback, the Ravens defense showed a bunch of really basic coverages to bait out the interception. Is there any truth to this rumor?
No, not at all. No truth. Not to my knowledge. I would have to go back and watch the few plays before that. I've had a lot of hits in between this time and this, no, man, that was actually just a goal line defense. So you couldn't really disguise that. That goal line defense is different than, those first, second down plays that we had. I was actually playing Z corner at the time. I wasn't even playing safety, for instance. I was playing Z corner in that defense, so no, I just think he threw the ball extra late.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Well,
they should have left McNabb in the game.
Speaking of ball hawking, one of the most impressive records you set during your legendary career is an NFL best 9 postseason interceptions. Which defensive back do you view as the most likely to make one of those game-changing plays on Sunday?
Matthew, come on, man, the Honey Badger. You know what I mean? First of all, he's a Louisiana guy like myself, but he's aspiring for that. I was someone he watched. I know he's trying to change the game and help his team win ultimately. So if I had to pick one person, it would be him.
Excellent.
Ed, pleasure to be on with you. Your Ravens era was so famous for their attention to detail and, of course, physicality defensively as the game has skewed into this offensively dominant era. What do you think defenders from today need to revisit from, the mid-2000s and that period of time, those defensive ideals to try to bring back?
Man. The biggest thing is technique. It's always going to be technique. What I noticed when I first got into the NFL, I'm gonna say the first 2 years is that they were changing rules every year. The first year you're like, oh, they got the rules committee coming here, and then the second year you notice that you understand that this is going to be like this every year. So what you had to do is adapt to what they were doing. And that all falls back down on your technique. How to tackle, proper positioning, and trying to in order to make the play, you got to get there quicker than your opponent, so all that comes back down to training and technique.
That's awesome. Yeah. And from my perspective, like thinking about athletes a lot, and like I'm a little bit younger. I haven't lived like half as consequential a life as you have, like, frankly. And that's not to like downplay myself or anything, but to ask, like, do you still think about your career like often? And if you could change the outcome of like any one game or any couple games from your college or pro career, what do you think it would be?
Man, I wouldn't change much. If anything, probably would I probably wouldn't hit people as hard, man. I probably wouldn't have threw myself around as much. Though it was all within the rules. I was never trying to play with an ill will and hit guys and take them out, with the crown of my helmet or anything like that. So I wouldn't change much, man. Outside of just trying to play as long as possible. But that was my mentality when I played. I was trying to play as long as possible. So I was taking care of myself physically. I was eating the right foods, getting proper rest and stuff like that, man. So, man, I enjoyed every step of the way.
Thanks, Ed. Big question. You tweeted a little bit about wanting to coach in the NFL. Have you had any conversations about joining the Ravens staff or coaching with them in any capacity?
I've talked to Coach Harbaugh, briefly at times about things, but I'm not a position coach, man. I mean, I can coach a position, but no, it's not a position that I want because, for one, I'm working with guys who are probably younger than me, haven't played the game, and just won't even hear my voice putting me at a position coach. My voice won't even be heard, so that's why I tweeted being a DC or a head coach. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I aspire for. You got to know your worth, like I said, I've been in the league around a lot of coaches, and looking at some of these coaches get jobs who I've worked with, and I mean, even the hire. Did you see the interview from the head coach in Philly?
Yeah, I saw that one.
Like, what I mean? So there's just so many little things you look at, like, man, we don't get respect as ex-players anyway, coaching, for some reason,
right.
That's just there, man.
Well, we'd love to have you back in Baltimore. This game on Sunday again, just in general, the league seems to be growing more pass happy every single season, although the Ravens are kind of doing it different than everybody else. I'm wondering if you believe that the run game can still fuel championships in the modern NFL.
You watch the big game on Sunday, and when you watching it, make sure you're drinking water and stay hydrated. First off, because that's why we're here with Crown Royal. But
love Crown Royal.
During December, January, in order to get to the next level, to get to the big game, you got to be able to run the football. To play this game, you got to be able to run the football. Baltimore, for a long time, even to this day, is built off of defense and running the football. When Baltimore had their success, not to take away from anybody, they run the football well. So you got to know your team. You got to know your mentality. you know. So that falls back down on you as coaching, you know, and also your players, you know. So you got to be able to run the football, though, man. I don't give a care. That's what this sport is built off. You can't just come and throw the ball out. You know, most teams who get to throwing the ball 45 plus times, you go and check the record. I bet that it's on the losing side for most teams that throw the ball 45 times plus.
Got to be able to pound the rock. And it felt like in order for the 2012 Ravens to reach the big game, finally, that the 2011, the 2010, 2009, 2008 Ravens had to get some skin in the game, you know, some blood, sweat, and tears to reach that point and keep building, tweaking, working to get better every single year. Do you see similarities with what the Ravens have been putting out the last couple of years, falling short and making those tweaks? Do you find any similarities in these runs?
No, not really, man. We were different teams, and like you said, we were in the AFC Championship game. We weren't just in the playoffs. It looks more like my early part of my career is when we was making the playoffs and we just couldn't get over that first game or that second game. You know, it reminds me of those times when we just didn't have every component. You know, when we went those 5 years, those 4 or 5 years straight, we had a Super Bowl winning team. We just didn't have the ball bouncing our way. You know, and to get to the Super Bowl, man, you got to have that ball bouncing your way. You know, I could go back to the Green Bay game, the Tampa Bay Green Bay game last week, or the week before last, and Reggie and I looking at it, Reggie Wayne and I, actually both those games, and we looking at the Saints and looking at Green Bay, was like, man, the ball is just not bouncing their way early. And when you see that, usually, you know, you like, man, it's going to be a long day, you know. So you got to have that ball bouncing your way too, man.
Yeah, definitely. And we know you're a big golfer. We know you like to get out and swing the sticks around a little bit. So last one here before we get you out of here, a little bit of a fun one. We've seen you play with Peyton Manning, a lot of cool guys that we would sure like to play with at some point, though it's probably not going to happen. But for you, if you could play a round of golf or maybe, let's say, smoke a cigar and enjoy a Crown Royal or anything like that with any three human beings, past, present, alive, or dead, who would those three people be?
Man, jeez and peace. All right, let's go. So being that we have a Crown Royal, let's make sure, you know, I let y'all know to stay hydrated. Because, you know, there's a big game Sunday and you're going to be consuming some alcoholic beverages. If I was playing golf and consuming alcoholic beverage, I'd be drinking water and probably passing one to Michael Jordan, Martin Luther King, and President Obama. That would be my foursome to play with. I think that would be a good foursome.
Pretty good group.
Me and Martin against Obama and Jordan.
Well, we love it, Ed. Thank you so very much for your time. Thank you to Crown Royal for allowing this interview to be a part of it. Get your water breaks in, everybody, if you're going to be enjoying some Crown Royal for the big game. Thank you so very much, Haley. Thank you for everything.
No doubt, man. Stay hydrated, stay royal.
Take care, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys. See you later.
All right, God bless. Hell yeah.